The Forbidden Archive. The great hall of the Galactic Council was silent. The air shimmered with holographic stars that hung like ghosts of forgotten systems. In the corner stood Voran, a historian from the planet Zyros. His silver eyes reflected the light as he carefully unlocked an ancient data crystal. It had been sealed for over 10,000 cycles, marked only with one word: forbidden. Voran's hands trembled. He had spent his life studying the early days of the galaxy. He believed every known species began after the Council was formed, but this crystal, it was older, far older. The Council guards shifted nervously as the hologram came to life. Dust turned to light, light turned to voices. And then, images of a world covered in blue oceans and green lands appeared. "What world is this?" a voice asked from behind. It was High Chancellor Sareth, leader of the Council. Voran swallowed hard and replied, "Records call it Terra or Earth. It existed long before the Council." The Chancellor frowned. "Impossible. No such planet is in our archives." But the hologram showed cities, machines that touched the sky, and humans walking, building, smiling. The room filled with whispers. One counselor shouted, "Fake data! No race could build this so early." Another said, "Look at their technology, it's primitive." Yet Voran saw something strange. The human machines were ancient but elegant, efficient in ways modern science couldn't explain. He froze when he saw a date written in the corner of the recording. Before Galactic Year 0, centuries before any known species existed. He magnified the image and everyone gasped. A human scientist stood before a massive gate made of light. It looked like a jump gate, the man spoke. "We open the stars not for conquest, but for connection." The image flickered, then showed countless ships leaving Earth, spreading across space. Each vessel carried the same symbol, a circle with wings. Voran's voice shook. This means humans mastered interstellar travel before any of us were born." The Chancellor's expression hardened. "Shut it down," she ordered. "Erase the file." Voran turned, shocked. "But this is history. You can't destroy the truth." Guards moved closer, but the crystal refused to deactivate. The hologram expanded, filling the chamber with light. Suddenly, text appeared in dozens of alien languages, each translating itself into the minds of the listeners. It read, "For those who come after, we remember you." The room fell silent. Every council member stared, unsure if they were seeing a message from gods or ghosts. The words carried warmth and sorrow, as if the humans knew they would one day be forgotten. Sareth broke the silence. "Who sent this message?" she demanded. Voran whispered, "The humans." "Long before our species learned speech." The Chancellor turned pale. "That's impossible. Humans never joined the Council because they never existed until now." Outside the hall, rumors spread fast. The words "the humans returned" echoed through the corridors of power. Data servers flickered as forbidden files reactivated themselves across the galaxy. In some sectors, ships lost contact for seconds, as if something unseen was scanning them. Later that night, Voran sat alone in his study, replaying the recording. He paused at one frame, an image of stars forming a pattern like a hand reaching outward. He realized it was a map, but not of the current galaxy. It was older, showing constellations that no longer existed, stars that had died millions of years ago. He whispered to himself, "How can a race record a map from before the stars were born?" Then he noticed something hidden at the bottom corner of the hologram, a final line of code, unreadable by any modern system. He ran it through his translator, and a voice played, calm and human. "If you are hearing this, you are our children." Voran froze. The voice continued, "We built this galaxy for you, not to rule it, but to teach you. When you are ready, you will find us." Then the recording ended with a faint pulse of light like a heartbeat. He sat motionless, realizing the truth that could destroy everything. If humanity had built the galaxy, then every species, every empire was living in their shadow. He sent a private message to the Chancellor. "We must discuss what I found. Do not let the others know." But before she could respond, the Council's security alarms echoed through the hall. The archive room was locked down. The crystal had vanished. Only a single message remained on the console, glowing faintly. The Councils fear the Galactic Council's capital. Arthal Prime had never felt this tense. Every corridor buzzed with quiet panic. Every datapad flashed new security codes. The words "Project Silence" had leaked, and no one knew who started it. The discovery of the human archive had shaken the galaxy's foundations. For the first time in recorded history, the Council was afraid. High Chancellor Sareth sat in her chamber surrounded by flickering holograms of frightened leaders. Species from 1,000 worlds argued in panic. "Shut down the archives," shouted the Urkoth delegate, his scaled face twisting in fear. "If the people learn that humans existed before us, our history collapses." Another delegate snapped, "Collapse? It's already crumbling. They built the gates. They made the stars ours." Sareth raised a trembling hand. "Enough," she whispered. "We must contain this before it spreads." Her voice was steady, but inside her heart raced. The last time she saw fear like this was during the Great Void War. Yet this was worse. The enemy wasn't invading, it was truth itself. Deep in the Council's secure vault, Voran stood before the remains of the stolen data crystal. Its core had been wiped clean, but traces of energy still pulsed faintly. He was joined by an investigator from the intelligence wing, Commander Lyra, a sharp-eyed officer known for her calm under fire. "You think someone erased it?" she asked quietly. Voran nodded. "Not someone," he said. "Something." He showed her a reading. The crystal's code rewrote itself and transferred data into the central network for exactly 8 seconds. Lyra frowned. "That's impossible. Our systems are isolated." Voran gave a tired smile. "So were the ships orbiting Earth." Lyra leaned closer. "Then what do you think it was?" Voran hesitated. "I think the humans are listening." Outside, chaos spread. Entire star systems began digging into their archives, searching for forgotten data. Old relics dismissed as myths now showed human markings, circles, wings, and the word origin. Civil unrest erupted, as citizens demanded to know why their leaders had lied. To calm the panic, Sareth ordered a secret meeting known as the Silent Assembly. Only 7 beings allowed, no records kept. They gathered in the Hall of Shadows. Ancient and sealed by oath, the Chancellor spoke first. "We have uncovered evidence that our founders knew of humanity and erased them from history." The air grew colder. One of the oldest counselors, an insectoid elder named Jarek, hissed, "I was born 3,000 cycles ago. Even then, the whispers existed. We were told they were legends." "Not legends," Voran said, stepping from the dark. "Builders." He placed a hologram on the table, an image of human hands shaping starlight into rings, gas forming into systems. They didn't just travel. They created. The chamber fell silent. Then the hologram glitched, replaced by static, and a faint voice filled the air. It was the same voice from the archive. Calm and sorrowful. "Do not fear us. We remember our children." The light flickered, then the entire city dimmed. All power across Arthal Prime cut out for exactly 1 heartbeat. Ships in orbit froze in place. Communication dead. When the lights returned, the hologram had changed. It now displayed a single message across every device in the system. "Project Silence failed. They will know." Lyra's hand tightened on her blaster. "That wasn't from us," she whispered. Voran shook his head. "No. It came from somewhere deeper." He turned to the Chancellor. "How long have you known?" Sareth's expression hardened. "The Council was formed to hide what our ancestors did," she admitted quietly. "They feared humanity's return, so they rewrote history, burned records, and erased planets." Voran stepped back in disbelief. "You lied to every world?" She looked away. "We didn't have a choice. The last message from the humans said, 'When we return, judgment follows.'" A cold wind seemed to pass through the room, though no air moved. The hologram shifted again, this time showing an ancient battle. Human ships, massive and luminous, facing smaller alien fleets. The recording ended with a single phrase spoken by a human voice. "Forgive them." Voran's breath caught. "They forgave us," he said softly. "And you still hid the truth?" Sareth's voice trembled. "Because forgiveness doesn't mean mercy." Then a distant alarm echoed through the council chambers. Lyra ran to the control screen. "Something's approaching from beyond the void sector," she shouted. The screen showed hundreds of unknown signals, small, faint, like echoes of stars, but each moving with purpose. "Is it an invasion?" someone gasped. Voran stared at the readings, his voice low. "No, it's a signal." He looked up slowly. "They've heard us outside in the darkness of space." Faint human whispers carried through subspace frequencies. A forgotten voice speaking across time, repeating one haunting phrase over and over again. Echoes from Earth across the galaxy. The words, "They are coming home," spread like wildfire. Whole star systems trembled. Empires that once ruled with pride now whispered in fear. The Council tried to silence the panic, but truth moves faster than orders and even faster than light. In a hidden chamber deep beneath Arthal Prime, Varan and Commander Lyra stared at a live transmission. The signal was ancient, older than the Council's entire existence, yet it pulsed like a heartbeat, rhythmic and alive. "Where is it coming from?" Lyra asked, leaning forward. Voran swallowed hard. "Earth." The room went cold. Earth, the blue world from the Forbidden Archive, was supposed to be lifeless for millions of years, a dead rock orbiting a forgotten sun. Yet here it was, transmitting across the void. The message repeated endlessly, filled with strange harmonics and layered tones that no alien translator could decode. But buried deep in the noise, there was a word, soft, fragile, and unmistakably human. Remember, the Council's science fleet was deployed instantly. 10 exploration ships entered Sol system. Led by the flagship Orion, its captain, Kale Dren, a proud soldier from the Voral species, didn't believe in myths. He thought this was just another piece of propaganda from the rebels. But when his ship neared the blue planet, his disbelief melted into fear. Earth was alive, not with cities or life, but with energy. Entire continents pulsed faintly as if the planet itself was breathing. The oceans shimmered with patterns that formed perfect circles, symbols seen in the ancient archive. "Are those words?" whispered a pilot. Kale zoomed in. The waves formed one phrase, repeated again and again across the globe. "We see you." Suddenly, every system on the Orion flickered. Lights dimmed, gravity shifted, and the ship's AI began to whisper in human tongue. "You've come far." "Children," Kale shouted, "shut it off!" But the controls didn't respond. The ship wasn't being attacked, it was being read. Voran watched from the command center on Arthal Prime. "The signal's not hostile," he said. "It's scanning us." The Chancellor clenched her fists. "Scanning for what?" Voran's voice trembled. "For memory, on Earth, the fleet deployed drones into the atmosphere. They captured the ruins of towering cities buried under forests and ice. Yet something felt wrong. Every ruin looked recent, not ancient, as if rebuilt and abandoned again and again. "Captain," one of the officers called, "you'll want to see this." The drone entered a vast crater in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. Inside stood a massive ring structure, the same as the one seen in the Forbidden Archive. Its surface glowed faintly. The drone's camera focused on carvings written in hundreds of alien scripts, all translating into one message to our children among the stars. "We are watching." Suddenly, a voice echoed through the Orion's bridge, human and calm. "You should not have come." Kale's blood froze. "Who are you?" The voice didn't answer immediately. Then softly it said, "I am the custodian." Every ship's system went dark. Engines offline, weapons locked, gravity frozen. In that silence, the voice continued, "You were not meant to find us yet. We left you light, knowledge, and peace. What have you done with them?" No one spoke. The council members listening through the live feed were pale and silent. The custodian continued, "You turned creation into empire, unity into fear. You built your council on our ashes." The holograms flickered, showing ancient scenes, humans building the first alien colonies, guiding them, teaching them. Then, the younger races rose, afraid of their creators. Kale whispered, "You made us, and we destroyed you." The custodian's tone remained calm. "We forgave you, but we never forgot." The ground on Earth began to shake. The ring in the ocean started to spin slowly, glowing brighter than any star. "Power surge," shouted a technician. "It's generating energy from nothing." The custodian spoke again. "Do not fear, this is remembrance, not revenge." The ocean parted as a giant sphere rose from beneath the waves, made of silver and light. Within it, the shadows of human figures could be seen, motionless. "Preserved waiting," the custodian whispered. "The builders sleep, but they will awaken when the time comes." Kyle took a step forward, trembling. "Why now? Why show us this?" The voice paused. "Because one of you remembered. Back on Arthal Prime." Voran froze, his console flashed with strange symbols, identical to the ones on Earth's ruins. The AI message was rewriting itself across his screen, forming a single phrase in his native language. "You carry our memory, child." The lights around him dimmed, and for a brief moment Voran saw a vision, not a dream. but a memory, humans walking beside alien children, teaching them to read, to build, to think. He fell to his knees, tears in his eyes. They never left, he whispered. They've been here, inside us all along. Then, across the galaxy, every network, every data crystal, every communication channel flashed the same message at once. A voice speaking in every language, ancient and human. The awakening, the galaxy had gone silent. No broadcasts, no trade, no wars. Every species stopped to listen. The message from Earth still echoed in every system. We return not to rule, but to remind. Yet no one understood what it truly meant. On Arthal Prime, the council was in chaos. The halls that once held debates of pride now rang with whispers of fear. Some called it prophecy, others called it extinction. High Chancellor Sareth stared at the holographic image of Earth spinning slowly before her. We buried them, she whispered, and they rose from their own ashes. Commander Lyra entered, her uniform scorched from overwork. Chancellor, we lost contact with the Orion fleet, she said. Every ship vanished from orbit within seconds. No wreckage, no distress call. Sareth clenched her fists. Are they dead? Lyra hesitated. We don't know. The last transmission was a voice. She played it. The voice was human, calm and powerful, echoing through the chamber. The custodian has awakened. The memory of Earth breathes again. Then silence. Foran appeared behind them, eyes dark from sleepless nights. They're not gone, he said quietly. They've been taken below. Sareth turned sharply. Below? You mean underground? He nodded. Yes, into the vault of the Makers. He projected images from old data. Massive tunnels under Earth's crust lined with unknown metals. Older than the planet itself, Lyra frowned. Why would they go there? Varan's voice was low. Because something is waking up. Far across the void, deep beneath Earth's surface. The Orion crew opened their eyes. They were no longer on their ship. They stood inside a colossal chamber lit by blue fire. Thousands of crystal-like structures surrounded them, each one containing a human form asleep in light. Captain Kale stepped forward, his voice shaking. What is this place? The custodian's voice echoed from everywhere and nowhere. This is the cradle where the builders rest. They await the signal. Kyle raised his weapon. If you are their guardian, then why bring us here? The custodian replied, to witness. The crystals pulsed once, and a projection filled the chamber. Visions of humanity's past. Millions of humans shaping worlds, seeding life, teaching alien species how to survive. You were born of our kindness, the custodian said. And you forgot. Kyle fell to his knees, overwhelmed by images of human hands guiding alien children, teaching them to build ships, to reach for the stars. Why did you leave? He whispered. The custodian's voice softened. Because you feared us, because you needed to grow without our shadow. The floor trembled. Dust falling from above, the crystals glowed brighter. But now, your wars have scarred the galaxy. You are lost. So we return. Kale looked around. Return to do what? Rule us again? A long silence followed. Then the custodian's voice answered, no. To remind you of what you were meant to be. Back on Arthal Prime, Varan discovered something strange. The Council's main data core had begun rewriting itself. Ancient languages merged into one pattern, the same that appeared on the custodian's transmissions. He realized it wasn't random, it was a countdown. He rushed into the Chancellor's chamber. It's not a message, he gasped. It's a timer. Something on Earth will activate in less than one cycle. Sareth's eyes widened. Activate what? Before he could answer, every star map in the Council chamber flickered. A glowing network of light stretched from Earth outward, touching every colony, every relay, every ship. It looked like veins pulsing through the galaxy, Varan whispered. They built this. They built everything. Lyra watched as her console displayed the impossible. The galaxy's energy grid was aligning itself, realigning to its original human design. The custodian's voice echoed faintly through the comms. The builder's memory flows once more. The great network awakens. The council panicked. Shut it down. One shouted, they'll take control of everything. Another screamed, we'll lose sovereignty. But Sareth stood frozen, watching in awe. We already lost sovereignty the day we were born, she murmured. On Earth, deep within the cradle, the crystals began to crack. The sleeping humans within started to stir. Faint light filling their eyes, Kale backed away in fear. They're alive, he whispered. The custodian replied, "They never died. They only waited for your call." The ground above trembled violently. Shockwaves rippled across the oceans. Satellites exploded in orbit, and from the heart of the Pacific, a beam of light shot into space, piercing the darkness, reaching the galactic core. Every ship, every system, every creature with eyes to see watched as the beam formed symbols across the stars. Ancient human runes burning brighter than suns. It wasn't an attack, it was a signal. A call that echoed through time itself. Varan stared up at the sky from the council's observatory, his voice trembling. "It's not war," he said softly. "It's awakening." Sareth looked at him. "Awakening of what?" He turned slowly, eyes wide. Of them. Across the galaxy, gravity waves pulsed. Energy patterns matched no known science, and far beyond the edge of the Milky Way, a massive shadow began to move, vast, graceful, and ancient. The stars dimmed as something unseen stirred in the void. The custodian's final words echoed through every mind connected to the network, calm yet filled with power, the truth that burned. The galaxy was no longer the same. Every planet, every ship, every living mind felt it. Something ancient had awakened beneath their stars. The custodian's signal rippled across time, rewriting old memories, unearthing truths buried for 1,000 generations. What was once myth was now undeniable. Humanity had never vanished. They had waited on Arthal Prime. The council chamber looked like a war zone of panic. Every screen blazed with images of the awakening. Humans rising from light on Earth, walking across oceans, floating above cities of their own creation. High Chancellor Sareth slammed her hands against the console. "This can't be real," she shouted. "They can't be alive after 10 million cycles." But Varan only stared at the display, his voice quiet. "They were never dead," he said. "They put themselves to sleep when the galaxy turned against them." Commander Lyra turned from the screen, pale. "You mean they chose to disappear?" Varan nodded slowly. "Yes, and they left the custodian to watch, to wait for when we forgot who we were." Sareth paced the floor. "You don't understand, Varan. If the public learns we betrayed our creators, everything we built collapses." Her words were heavy with guilt, but the truth had already escaped. Across the galaxy, archives opened on their own. Ancient human words whispered through data streams. Temples long buried lit up again, in the far reaches of the Varel Empire. A rebel fleet detected a massive energy pulse from Earth. They tried to jam it, but instead the signal fused into their systems, converting their ships into something unrecognizable. The hulls glowed with blue light, reshaping themselves into sleek, ancient human designs. The fleet captain screamed through the comms, "Our ships, they're changing." And then, silence. Back on Earth, Kale stood before one of the reawakened humans. Her form shimmered with light, her eyes bright as stars. She looked at him not with anger, but pity. "Do you remember why we left you?" she asked softly. Kale trembled. "Because we feared you," she nodded. "Yes. You feared what you did not understand, so we let you build your own stories, your own truth, but you built them on lies. You erased us to feel powerful." Her hand brushed a nearby crystal. And suddenly Kale saw it all. Human ships teaching alien worlds how to breathe, how to think, how to love. He saw the betrayal. The moment the young species rose against their makers, the humans didn't fight, they simply sealed themselves away. Their parting message carried on starlight. "Grow without us." Kale dropped to his knees, tears burning his eyes. "We destroyed paradise." The woman placed her hand on his shoulder. "No, child, you forgot it. On Arthal Prime." Varan connected the final pieces. The Great Network wasn't just a communications grid. It was a living memory. A galactic nervous system built by humanity to guide evolution itself. "They shaped everything," he whispered. "Even our DNA carries their echo." Lyra stared at him. "You mean we are part human?" Voran nodded slowly. "Not in blood, but in design. Every species was touched by them, molded to survive the chaos that came after their silence." The Chancellor turned pale. "Then what happens now? Do they rule again?" Voran looked out the window, his eyes reflecting the stars now burning brighter than ever before. "They don't need to rule," he said. "They are the stars." Suddenly, the entire planet shook. Every tower, every ocean, every sky turned gold for one brief moment, and then a voice, ancient, resonant, filled with power, spoke across the galaxy, not through radios or signals, but directly into every mind. We gave you the galaxy, and you filled it with war. We gave you wisdom, and you buried it under fear, but we do not return to punish. We return to remind. The council fell silent, tears streaming down faces that had never known shame before. Sareth whispered, "They speak like gods." Voran shook his head. "Not gods. Parents." Then came the fire. Not the kind that destroys, but the kind that reveals. Across 1,000 worlds, the human memory reactivated. Blue flames burned through stone temples, revealing ancient inscriptions that had been hidden for eons. Every phrase told the same truth: made in their image, born from their light. Entire cities stopped functioning, as power grids were overwritten with ancient human code. And then, in the deepest sector of the galaxy, the Eye of Varan, a black hole thought to be natural, awoke. Massive golden structures emerged from its edge, shaped like colossal wings. The custodian's voice returned, louder now. "The core of creation has awakened. The makers are gathering." Voran's hands shook as he translated the last line from the human archives. His voice broke. "They're not just returning to remind us who we are. They're returning to fix what we broke," Sareth whispered. "Then the age of the council is over." Lyra looked out at the burning sky, light cascading across every planet. "And the age of humanity begins again." In the blackness beyond stars, the first human fleet moved, not of metal but of light and memory. They carried no weapons, only truth, and as their ships passed through the void, galaxies themselves seemed to bow in silence. The custodian spoke one last time, its voice echoing through the heart of creation. They feared their own children once. Now the children must learn to remember their parents, and with that, the fire of awakening spread, consuming the lies, reshaping the stars, and igniting the galaxy with the one truth that no one could bury anymore. The return signal. The galaxy no longer slept. The fire of awakening had burned away the darkness, and in the ashes of false history, the truth stood bare: humanity, the first builders. The architects of the stars were returning. On Arthal Prime, chaos became religion. Temples rose overnight, dedicated to the makers of light. Millions gathered in streets, some weeping in worship, others trembling in terror. The council could not control it. Not anymore. The people no longer obeyed them. They listened to the voices coming from the void. Commander Lyra stormed into the chamber. "The signal is growing stronger," she shouted. "Every communication relay in the galaxy is being hijacked." Voran looked up from his console, his face pale. "No, not hijacked. Aligned. The signal wasn't coming from Earth anymore. It was coming from beyond, from the black between galaxies, from the places where light itself forgets to travel." Sareth, the High Chancellor, leaned forward. "Are you saying they're not just waking up? They're coming back?" Voran nodded slowly. "Yes, and they're using the old gates. The same gates that built the first civilizations." He turned the hologram toward her. It showed dozens of enormous rings reactivating across the galaxy, each one pulsing with the same energy frequency found in the custodian's code. "The last gate," Voran whispered, "is opening at the edge of the void. Far from the council's reach, a lone exploration craft drifted near the galactic border. Its sensors picked up something massive, bigger than any planet, shining with faint blue light. Captain Anar of the Klin species stared in disbelief. "That's not a ship," he murmured. His second officer replied, "Then what is it?" Before he could answer, his screen filled with a signal, an ancient human code repeating every 3 seconds. It translated itself across their systems. "This is the return signal." The way opens. The crew gasped as a gigantic ring emerged from the dark, slowly spinning, each rotation warping the stars around it. Through its center, light bled into the void. But it wasn't light from any known sun. It was older, pure, gold and alive. Anar's ship vibrated violently, alarms blaring, gravitic distortion rising, yelled the engineer. But before they could retreat, their systems froze. A voice spoke through their comms. Calm, familiar and impossibly human. "Children of the second dawn, stand witness." The entire crew fell silent as the gate flared open, revealing a fleet unlike anything ever seen. Ships made of light and memory, moving with the precision of thought. Their hulls shimmered with living energy, each vessel a monument, each glowing symbol older than the galaxy itself. Back on Arthal Prime, the same vision appeared in every mind. across every planet, through every living being. No machine transmitted it, no network carried it. The image was burned directly into consciousness. The return fleet, Voran whispered. They're here. Sareth fell to her knees. No. They were never gone. The custodian's voice returned, resonating through every atom of reality. We gave you the stars, and you forgot their meaning. It spoke not in anger, but in deep sadness. Your council built empires, but none built peace in orbit around Earth. The human fleet assembled, thousands of ships shaped like wings. Floating silently, each one carried a symbol, the circle of origin. Glowing like a sunrise, one of the awakened humans, the woman Kale had met, looked out from her vessel, her eyes burning with compassion. Do they remember us? She asked. The custodian replied, Not yet, but they will. Meanwhile, rebellion spread among the younger races. Civilizations that had lived under the Council's lies turned against them. Demanding truth, entire fleets defected, refusing to fire on the incoming light. They said it felt wrong, like shooting at the stars themselves. In a desperate attempt, Sareth ordered a last-ditch defense. If they seize control of the network, we lose everything, she cried. Lyra stared at her coldly. We already have. Then, all lights on Arthal Prime went dark. A massive shadow passed across the planet's atmosphere. Human ships descending silently, their energy fields bending gravity itself. No weapons, no threats, just presence. Voran stepped outside the council tower. Wind roaring through the ruins, a golden beam descended before him, and a figure stepped out, a human, tall, calm, wearing armor that shimmered like liquid sunlight. His eyes were ancient, yet kind. Voran fell to his knees. You came back. The man spoke softly. We never left. We waited for you to remember. He extended his hand, lifting Voran gently. This world was one of our first. You have done both terrible and beautiful things. It is time to learn again, Sareth emerged, trembling. What will you do to us? She asked. The human looked at her for a long moment. Judge you? No, he said quietly. We will teach you. Across the galaxy, every screen, every voice, every song carried the same message, transmitted directly from the returning humans. The age of silence is over. The children have called. And we have answered. The return signal expanded outward. Beyond the stars, beyond the edge of space, and in its wake. The galaxy trembled, not in fear, but in awe, as the golden light of humanity's fleet spread across the cosmos. Voran whispered the truth that every living being now understood. The day humanity spoke again. For the first time in galactic history, the stars themselves seemed to hold their breath. The return signal had reached its end, and the silence that followed felt heavy, alive. Every species, every leader, every child waited for what would come next. On the edge of the void, the human fleet hung like a constellation forged of memory and light. Thousands of radiant vessels stood in formation, their outlines shimmering with gold and blue fire. At their center drifted a single colossal ship, the Eidolon, vast enough to eclipse a moon inside its core chamber. The awakened humans gathered, their eyes glowing faintly with the light of ancient suns. They were no longer flesh and bone alone. They were something greater, half matter, half thought, one step between mortal and myth. A voice broke the stillness, deep and resonant, echoing through every level of the Eidolon. The galaxy waits, it said. Shall we remind them what we are? From the shadows stepped the first speaker of humanity, a woman draped in white light. Her name was Evelis Kane, the last human born before the long sleep. Her face was calm, but her gaze carried the weight of millennia. No vengeance, she said softly, no pride. They have lived in fear of their creators long enough. It is time to speak. On Arthal Prime, the council gathered outside under the golden skies. The air shimmered with the hum of approaching ships. Commander Lyra stood beside Voran as they watched a beam of light descend from orbit. It solidified into a walkway, an invitation. From it stepped 5 humans, luminous and silent. The air itself seemed to bend around them, not from power but from reverence. Every creature who looked upon them felt something deep within their being, like a lost memory trying to surface. Voran's voice broke the silence, trembling. Why us? Why come here first? The tallest human smiled faintly. Because you were the first to seek the truth, and the last to deny it. High Chancellor Sareth tried to kneel, but the human raised a hand. Do not bow, he said. We are not gods, we are gardeners, and this galaxy is our garden. A murmur spread through the crowd. Millions watched through broadcasts across the stars. The human looked upward, and his voice carried through every communication channel in existence. Without machines, without translation, children of the stars, he began. You have warred, enslaved, and burned the heavens we gave you. Yet in your chaos, you have also dreamed. You built art, love, and courage. You became more than we ever expected. Humanity does not return to rule, but to guide. The words rippled through minds like a storm of light. Across the galaxy, ships powered down. Armies lowered their weapons. Even the machines of war paused as if listening. The first speaker, Evelyn Kane, appeared as a projection above every inhabited world. You are not our subjects, she said. You are our legacy, but a legacy must remember its roots, or it dies. Her eyes seemed to pierce the soul of every being. You forgot who you were meant to be, so we came to remind you. In that moment, the skies above every world filled with light. Not weapons, but gifts, knowledge, technology, and peace codes stored in beams of golden data. They fell gently like rain, touching the ground and merging with the soil, the air, the oceans. Voran looked up as one of the beams struck the council's plaza, forming a glowing seed that pulsed with life. What is it? He whispered. The human smiled. A beginning. Sareth's eyes widened. You're rebuilding us. The human shook his head. No. We're reminding you how to rebuild yourselves. But even as peace spread, something stirred in the darkness of space. The void between galaxies rippled. A presence older than even humanity's memory moved. A shadow that had hunted them once before. The custodian's voice returned, urgent. They come. Evelyn looked toward the dark horizon beyond the stars, her expression calm. So the old enemy survived, she murmured. Good. Then our children will see what they were born from. The ground shook as the return fleet turned in formation, light roaring from their hulls. The humans who had awakened prepared not for conquest, but defense. The lesson is not over, Evelyn said. They will stand with us or they will fall alone. In the council chamber, Voran watched the skies ignite with human ships rising to meet the encroaching dark. He turned to Lyra. Do you realize what this means? They're not saving us, they're inviting us, Lyra smiled faintly. Then let's earn the right to fight beside our makers. And so, for the first time in galactic history, every species united, not under threat, not under fear, but under the memory of the ones who built the stars. Human and alien fleets stood side by side, facing the void. The dark storm broke through the edge of the galaxy, a sea of black fire and monstrous silence. But the light met it head-on. Humanity's fleet opened its wings of gold, and from the heart of the Eidolon, Evelyn spoke 3 final words that echoed through all of creation. Children, stand tall, and the galaxy obeyed. Light clashed with darkness, and in that blinding collision, every living being felt the same truth burn into their hearts. The humans had not returned as gods or conquerors. They had returned as hope itself. The war for the soul of the stars had begun, and this time humanity would not fight for the galaxy. They would fight with it.